Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am Lauren, your host, and I have a 1-year-old son. I started this podcast for any mother who might feel alone in their journey through motherhood. Becoming a mom is hard no matter how you get there, and this podcast is about the mom stuff that comes up in our lives. Listen, enjoy, and connect with us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am Lauren, your host for this week. And yes, it is another solo show week. This is hopefully in 3 more weeks. That will be my last solo show for a little while, and I will be able to have some guests come on starting kind of near the end of February. I also, on February 13th, will be my sugar fast, like a wrap up. And I'm not really going to talk about my sugar fast. And I kind of stopped talking about it. And there's a lot of reasons why. And a lot probably will shock you guys when you hear the episode. But not shock you. I mean, it's not it's not that crazy. But I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of the schedule from here. And I just trying to give you like a little life update, and then we'll get into the topic this week. This week's topic is about, last week I did comfort. What did I do? Comfort things that I watched on TV that were comforting to me. And then this week I'm going to do books that I run to for comfort also. So just a little life update. I have switched back to doing Insanity in the mornings. Not every morning. I'm trying to do it 3 to 4 times. 4 times is probably the max I can do a week. And that is what I am working on now. I'm waking up a little bit earlier and I am doing that 3 to 4 times a week. That makes me feel the best all day long. So I really try to focus on doing that. And another thing that I planned for our family is that we are going to have another mini Thanksgiving in February. My husband, myself, and my son are just going to have a mini Thanksgiving dinner, just the 3 of us. This past Thanksgiving, it was supposed to be just the 3 of us. And then we were lucky enough to spend some of it with Brian's sister and the brother and their brother-in-law and our brother-in-law. And we had a great time. But I had that little hope that I was going to get to make Thanksgiving food for our family, and I never got to. So we are going to do that for Valentine's Day, not the actual day, but that weekend, as I am not doing that much cooking for a weekday when I work. But just wanted to give you guys a little update on that. But let's dive into comfort books, and I'll see how it goes. I have about seven here that I'm going to talk about. And then if there is time, I'm actually going to talk about some of the books that my son always runs to currently. He is about 1.5 years right now, so he loves books. We were outside after I got home from work for about 1.5 hours. And then we came inside and he spent a full hour with books. And then after dinner, he spent another 10, 20 minutes with books. And then right before bed, he spent another 15, 20 minutes with his books. So he really, really likes books all the time. But let's get into the books that I love. And these are the comfort books that I read over and over again, books that I read when I want something different. I go through kind of cycles of wanting to read and not wanting to read. I'm very picky about books that I read. Again, similar to TV, I don't read very intense books, and I don't really read a lot of books with suspense. I did read one book recently, and I have no idea what the name of it was, but it was something from the planes that landed in, I think it was Newfoundland on 9/11, and about how the communities helped the people that were stranded there for, I want to say a week, but they didn't know at the time how long they were going to be there. And different flights left at different times to return home. But other than that, I tried a few books. I think like Reese Witherspoon has a book club, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. And I read the book, and I did not like it at all. I think it was the proposal. It was just not for me. It was fine for what it was. I just didn't like how it ended, and it just it wasn't for me. So let's start with the books that I actually do like. So my first book is called Eligible, and this is probably one of my favorite books that I've ever been introduced to. My best friend, who is an English professor, she introduced this book to me because she thought I would just love it. My favorite all-time book is Pride and Prejudice. I love that book. I think it's amazing. I love that book. I love the BBC version of the book when they put it to a movie. Not crazy about the Keira Knightley one. I mean, it's fine, but it's not in true tellings of the story as much. But Eligible, and I'm sorry, I don't have the author's name. It's Elizabeth something, but I can't think of her last name. I thought I would remember, so I didn't write it down, and now I can't remember. But Eligible is like a present day Pride and Prejudice, and it's about this family of five girls, and their parents can't really afford their house anymore. And this rich man comes to town, and one of the five sisters kind of falls for him. And it's just kind of the story of Pride and Prejudice of there's a Mr. Darcy and there's an Elizabeth, and they add into it that there is somewhere in there there's like one of the characters who plays Mr. Bingley is on this show called Eligible, which is like our Bachelor. And it's just kind of funny to see how everything plays out. But I kind of like it. It's a modern day. Again, the ending is a little not my favorite, but I like the meat and the potatoes of the story. So that's definitely one of my favorites. My next book is all about Harry Potter. So if you are a Harry Potter fan, you will know that you can always go back and read those books. I actually just started to go back and read the first book, and I do not read all the books. I read typically the first book, the third book, the sixth book, and parts of the last book, but pretty much all of the last book, the seventh book. And I never really liked the second book at all. I remember when I read it the first time, I was just like, ugh, okay. I quickly read it. And then I really don't like the fourth book. I don't like the fourth movie. I don't like the fourth one, if I could just like not ever have to like know even anything about it. That is my least favorite book out of all of them. And the fifth one is all right. I just don't normally read it. It's very dark and it's not as fun. I think the sixth movie is probably my favorite movie. But I guess the first movie is my favorite movie. I love that. I just love I love learning about the Harry Potter stuff. And again, I'm still sick, so unfortunately my voice is not perfect, but it's not horrible. So that's why I'm still recording today. But Harry Potter, I love it, and I come back to it. I know around Christmas time, I will say like October maybe to December, I really like to read. I I don't know why. It's like that time of year I really like to read. And in the summer I read less, and I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if there's just more sunlight, so I'm reading more. So I'm working on, just trying to read more overall. But in the summer, I just seem to read less, even though you would think I have more time. And the only time I can read is after I put my son to sleep and everything is done for the day, and I can go up to bed and read. I can't think of like a time that I can like sit around and read. And I think it's like funny sometimes people are like, well, just, while your son's playing, you can be reading. I'm like, I don't know if you have an 18-month-old or a 19-month-old that you realize that that's not really a possibility. So I only get to read in little spurts at night sometimes, and not all the time. So it's, I work on it all the time. But I'm going to start with the first Harry Potter, and then we'll see from there. I don't know if I'll keep reading Harry Potter's or if I'll move on to something else. Another series that I would say another author that I really follow, and I'm not sure how to say her name, but it's Debbie Macomber, I think. And she writes like sappy, like love stories, and her focus is Christmas books. So one of my favorites is The 12 Days of Christmas. And I like this. Again, it's sort of like a modern day love story about this man and woman, and this woman has a blog and she kind of writes about this interaction with her neighbor who's always grumpy and never says anything nice, and she's trying to do 12 days of nice things with him. And of course, they fall in love. And again, I read this like every, I wish I could say every November, but it's probably every October, getting ready for the Christmas season. And it's one of those books that just puts you in the mood to get ready for the holidays. And I love those kinds of books. They're nice and light. There are a few other books that I have read that I'm not going to mention because before I had kids, I think I could read more wide variety and watch more wide variety things. And now I don't want to say I'm constantly worrying, but there is worry in me about my son and things that could happen to my son. And so I physically can't have really anything that I need to focus on outside of that or add any other worries that I'm not even thinking about through books or any type of media. So I really keep it as light as possible. And there have been other books that have been more, you know, dramatic, like that I used to read at Christmas, and I can't read them anymore. Any little bit of sadness just doesn't. I know in reality it happens. I just think it happens enough in real life that I don't need to keep reading about it. So that's why I don't do it. Another series that I have followed, and I have done this for a long time. Meg Cabot is one of my favorite all time authors. She had a series, and I'm not quite sure, I can't remember. I think Big Boned is the first one in the series, but even looking at the books, I couldn't figure out which one was the first one in the series. But it's about this woman who becomes like a assistant dorm director at this college in New York City, and she was a like teenage pop star, and now she's not a pop star anymore, and her ex-boyfriend is like another former pop star from like their teenage years, and it follows her love life and it follows her interactions in the dorms. And ironically, there is always some sort of murder in the dorm every year. And for some reason, I don't know why that does not scare me, or maybe because I read it so many times and listened to it so many times before I had my son. So I guess that doesn't affect me as much. So I don't mind reading about it, and it's not very suspenseful. Like I know it's going to happen. And the first one I think is actually the scariest one. And then the ones after that are not as much. So I really enjoy pretty much anything Meg Cabot writes, but that is my all-time favorite series. And I want to say there's 5 or 6 books. I'm not quite sure, but that I go back to a lot. I really like that one a lot. Another one that I like is by Sophie Kinsella, and it's called The Undomestic Goddess. And I have read that one. I have listened to that one. I used to drive to Florida every year to visit family. So from the Northeast down to Florida every year, I would have books on tape that I would bring. And this was one of the ones that I would always bring. And I just love it. It's about this. I can't even remember exactly how it starts. But, anyways, this woman like quits her job and comes, gets on a train and just gets off, hoping that she can find a job somewhere. And they think that she comes to this house and they think that she is this domestic goddess meant to come to the house, and it's just all about her interactions with the people who are in the house, how she figures out how to actually like cook and clean because she previously did not know how to do that, and just the people that she meets along the way. It's just a very interesting story, and I just love in reading about it. And it's very light and happy, and everything pretty much has a happy ending. Even the Meg Cabot books, they all have a happy ending. Maybe not as an expected happy ending, but they do. And the last one that I'll talk about for me is Sweet Valley Confidential. And again, my best friend is the one that told me about it. And if you read Sweet Valley High, the series growing up, this is like them as grown-ups. I don't know how else to describe it. But I think when I stopped reading it, they were like in college. And then there was like a 5-book mini series that came out. And I think it's only available as an ebook. You can't buy like a physical book. It's only an ebook. And it's written by Francis Pascal. So it's like actually the author who did all of them. And it's a great 5-book series about how Jessica and Elizabeth, these identical twins, what their lives are like, and a lot of the characters' lives. And again, it's very modern day. One of the, I think Lila is on the Real Housewives of whatever, Sweet Valley High or Sweet Valley, California. So it kind of talks about the relationships of everyone and who ended up with who and whom and all that stuff. So I enjoyed it. The ending sort of like abruptly ends and you're like, oh, well, there'll be another book, but there's not. So it just sort of like ends on a cliffhanger and you're like, well, what the heck's going on? So I don't know if the goal is that came out, I want to say like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And I always thought that there would be more, and there haven't been more books. So I'm hopeful, like maybe it's like an issue with a publisher or something like that, or I don't know, trying to get enough money or something like that, or these didn't make enough money. So if we all buy them, maybe another book will come out so we can wrap it all up. But I really did enjoy them. I read it really fast, and it was just kind of cool to see like that wrap up. And it's funny that a book series would do that. Like we talk about how all these TV shows have these remakes and whatnot, and they get back together. And I never thought of it for actual like book series that would ever happen. So that was kind of nice. So that's pretty much all I have for my comfort books, and I do really like them a lot. I'll take a few minutes and just talk about some of the books that my son really likes. He really he really has enjoyed. When I used to teach elementary school, I had a lot of elementary school books for holidays and I held on to them, and I didn't realize how many Thanksgiving books I had. But he's really into a lot of my Thanksgiving books, and a lot of them are like to songs, and I don't have all the names to them because there's like 20 of them that we go through every day. But he just loves those Thanksgiving books. He loves turkeys, and he makes like a little gobble gobble sound when he sees them. It's very, very cute. So he also loves, of course, his Christmas books. And we try and like cycle things in and out. the Christmas books were kind of, and obviously the Thanksgiving books we're trying to leave out till the end of February. And the only reason that we do that is that my son is really into Santa also. So he's into turkeys and he's into Santa. So we don't want to just like crush him and take them all away. And we might leave like one or two of them out so he still has them. But this year he's really enjoying the books and understanding, and he could be like, oh, bring me the Santa book, and we call them different things, but that he knows which ones, have Santa on them, and he'll bring them over, which ones are turkey books, and he'll bring those over. So that's also fun for us. But the two big things that my son really, really likes is The Pigeon Needs a Bath, or by Mo Williams. And he also does another book, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. And Don't Let the Pigeon Stay Up Late. Those are the three books by Mo Williams that our son just loves. He will just read those books. Well, he will have us read those books over and over and over again so many times. And we've added certain things to the books that have made them certain parts of them that my son just loves, and he laughs at extra that, unless you knew all these special tricks that we do in the books, you wouldn't know. So he just loves those books, just loves them. And then the other thing that he really, really likes is Clifford. He loves Clifford the Big Red Dog. And one of my really good friends got me the original Clifford book for when my son was born, and I have read that book to him so many times before he even really understood books or was looking at the pictures or anything like that. So I think that might be part of it. And my son loves dogs. We've watched a few of the like PBS Clifford shows, and my son really enjoys that too. So that is one of the books. And he has a few other Clifford books. He has like Clifford being a firefighter, and Clifford has the hiccups. So he really likes those books. And it's funny because if we go to like Barnes and Noble or whatnot, he'll find like the stuffed Clifford, and he'll walk around with him, and he'll find all the Clifford books. And that's the other funny thing. If we take him to a bookstore, he doesn't want to look at new books. He wants to look at all the books that we have at our house. He'll like go around and find the books that we read all the time to him. And he'll just want us to read the same books. And I always try and show him new books, but he has no interest in new books. He wants all the books that we have at home. He thinks it's hilarious that they're in the store. So a lot of our time in Barnes and Noble is just rereading the same books that we have at home. But he loves his books. Always, always. Our son just loves books, which I absolutely love. And I have to say that he loves the Eric Carle books, like Brown Bear, What Do You See? I think we have like 5 different versions of that throughout. Like there's one in like every room in our house. And my son every day, we have to read at least one every hour, I would say, of the different ones that we have. So definitely that is also one of his favorite. So that's going to end our show today. At the end of every show, I'm trying to say something cute or something that I'm really enjoying about my son. One of the newest things that he is saying is Thursday, and he is actually saying it. It sounds like, I guess it sounds like Thursday. I can't get an audio bite. I've tried so many times from the videos trying to like get it into the podcast, and every time it just doesn't sound right. It's like not loud enough, or you can't, because I have to turn the volume up so high on it, it just distorts it, and all you hear is like this shh from how the background noise of what I have to do. Because of course, if you ever try and get your child to record what you want them to say, it doesn't work out. And if you ever want them to do it for anyone, and it never works out either. So I'm sorry. I wish I could give you a clip, but I just can't seem to be able to record it that its audio is good enough to even put in the podcast. So, but he does say Thursday, and it's very cute. And it's funny how quick his language seems to be coming. I think my husband and I work on it a lot with him, and that seems to help. So, but I don't know. Maybe it's just his brain is just at that point and he's picking up the language more. Who knows? But we do work on it. We do try and work on it throughout dinner the whole time that we have dinner. So that's, and I do some extra stuff with him. And it's only because I'm a special ed teacher, I think, that I try and focus on a lot of different areas. And today I was actually talking with one of our PT or physical therapy specialists, and I was telling her some of the things that I was working on with him. And she's like, "You need to calm down." She's like, "You just need to let your son be." And I just know how important it is for like birth to 3 that there are some milestones that I just really want him to meet. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything because I do have the knowledge, so I feel like I can't let that go because I do have the knowledge that I know what he should be doing. And I don't really go by, oh, it says at 18 months he should be doing X. I just know like around where he should be for certain things. And so I try and focus on that stuff. And one of the biggest things right now is jumping. And he doesn't really have to jump until he's like 2.5, but like somewhere in between the 2.5 range, I would say. And he is definitely improving on it. And I think part of it was before that he was kind of going through a growth spurt. So his balance was a little off. So his jumping was just not, it was not progressing because of that. And I knew he could do it. I just, I wasn't sure if his brain physically wasn't there yet, or if he physically couldn't even do it because of growth. So it's always one of those things in the back of my mind that we always want to try and work on it a little bit every day. So, okay, that's a very long story about, what my son is great at right now, or what I love about my son right now. So that will wrap up today's show. If you have books that you want to share that are your comfort books, feel free to share them. You can follow us on Instagram, and you can also review and write a comment so that my iTunes rating can go up so that more people will have access to the show. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.